Shalom and welcome to Who is Yahuah. Thank you for joining me as we gather today's portion from the scriptures. Today's reading is Yahuah, Leviticus chapters 14 through 15. Yahuah, Leviticus chapter 14. Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, "This shall be the law of the leper on the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp. The priest shall examine him. If the plague of leprosy is healed in the leper, then the priest shall command that 2 live clean birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be taken for the one who is to be cleansed. The priest shall command that one of the birds be killed in an earthen vessel over running water. As for the living bird, he shall take it, the cedar wood, the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop, and dip them and the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. He shall sprinkle it 7 times on the one who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean. Then he shall let the living bird go into the open field. The one to be cleansed shall wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe himself in water. Then he shall be clean. After that he may come into the camp, but he shall stay outside his tent for 7 days. On the 7th day he shall shave all his hair from his head, his beard, and his eyebrows. He shall shave off all his hair. Then he shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and he shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 male lambs without blemish, 1 ewe lamb, a year old, without blemish, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. The priest who cleanses him shall set the man who is to be cleansed, along with these things, before Yahuah at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest shall take 1 of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering, along with the log of oil, and wave them as a wave offering before Yahuah. He shall kill the lamb in the place where they kill the sin offering and the burnt offering, in the set-apart place. For as the sin offering is the priest's, so is the guilt offering. It is most kadash. The priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it into the palm of his own left hand. The priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before Yahuah. The priest shall put some of the oil that is in his hand on the tip of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on top of the blood of the guilt offering. The rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed. The priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuah. The priest shall offer the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed because of his uncleanness. Afterward he shall kill the burnt offering. The priest shall offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. The priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be clean. If he is poor and cannot afford so much, then he shall take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved, to make atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, such as he can afford. The one shall be a sin offering, and the other a burnt offering. On the 8th day he shall bring them for his cleansing to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of meeting, before Yahuah. The priest shall take the lamb of the guilt offering and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them as a wave offering before Yahuah. He shall kill the lamb for the guilt offering. The priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The priest shall pour some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand. The priest shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in the left hand 7 times before Yahuah. The priest shall put some of the oil that is in his hand on the tip of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the place of the blood of the guilt offering. The rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before Yahuah. He shall offer 1 of the turtle doves, or young pigeons, such as he can afford, even such as he is able to afford, 1 for a sin offering, and 1 for a burnt offering, with the grain offering. The priest shall make atonement before Yahuah for the one to be cleansed. This is the law for him in whom is a plague of leprosy, who cannot afford the offerings for his cleansing. Yahuah spoke to Moshe and Aharon, saying, When you have come into the land of Canaan, which I give to you as a possession, and I put a plague of leprosy in a house in the land of your possession, then he who owns the house shall come and tell the priest, saying, It seems to me there is a plague in the house. The priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest goes in to examine the plague, so that all that is in the house is not made unclean. Afterward, the priest shall go in to examine the house. He shall examine the plague. If the plague is in the walls of the house with hollow streaks, greenish or reddish, and it appears deeper than the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and isolate the house for 7 days. The priest shall come again on the 7th day and examine it. If the plague has spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take out the stones in which the plague is and cast them into an unclean place outside the city. He shall cause the inside of the house to be scraped all around. They shall pour out the mortar that they scraped off outside of the city into an unclean place. They shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other mortar and plaster the house. If the plague comes again and breaks out in the house after he has taken out the stones, and after he has scraped the house, and after it is plastered, then the priest shall come in and examine it. If the plague has spread in the house, it is a destructive leprosy in the house. It is unclean. He shall break down the house, its stones, its timber, and all the mortar of the house, and he shall carry them out of the city to an unclean place. Moreover, he who goes into the house while it is isolated shall be unclean until evening. He who lies down in the house shall wash his clothes, and he who eats in the house shall wash his clothes. If the priest comes in and examines it, and the plague has not spread in the house after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. To cleanse the house, he shall take 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. He shall take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and the living bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird and in the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, the running water, the living bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. But he shall let the living bird go out of the city into the open field. So he shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law for any plague of leprosy, and for an itch, and for the destructive leprosy of a garment, and for a house, and for a swelling, and for a scab, and for a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean and when it is clean. This is the law of leprosy. Uyakarah, Leviticus, chapter 15. Yahuah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying, Speak to the children of Yashar'al, and say to them, When any man has a discharge from his body, his discharge is unclean. This shall be his uncleanness in his discharge, whether his body runs with his discharge or his body is stopped up by his discharge. It is his uncleanness. Every bed on which the man with the discharge lies shall be unclean, and everything he sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches his bed shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. Whoever sits on anything that the man with the discharge sat on shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. He who touches the body of the man with the discharge shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until evening. If the man with the discharge spits on someone who is clean, then he shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Whatever saddle the man with the discharge rides on shall be unclean. Whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until the evening. He who carries any of those things shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Whomever the man with the discharge touches, without rinsing his hands in water, shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. The earthen vessel that the man with the discharge touches shall be broken, and every wooden vessel shall be rinsed in water. When the man with the discharge is cleansed of his discharge, he shall count 7 days for his cleansing, wash his garments, and bathe his flesh in running water. Then he shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take for himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and come before Yahuah to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. The priest shall offer them, one as a sin offering, and the other as a burnt offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuah for his discharge. If any man has an emission of seed, he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until the evening. Every garment and every leather on which there is the emission of seed shall be washed with water and be unclean until the evening. If a man lies with a woman and there is an emission of seed, both of them shall bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. If a woman has a discharge, and the discharge in her flesh is blood, she shall be in her separation for 7 days. Whoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. Everything that she lies on in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches her bed shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Whoever touches anything that she sits on shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. If it is on her bed or on anything she sits on, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until the evening. If any man lies with her and her menstrual flow is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed he lies on shall be unclean. If a woman has a discharge of her blood for many days, not at the time of her separation, or if she has a discharge beyond the time of her separation, all the days of her discharge of her uncleanness shall be as in the days of her separation. She is unclean. Every bed she lies on, all the days of her discharge, shall be to her as the bed of her separation. Everything she sits on shall be unclean, as the uncleanness of her separation. Whoever touches these things shall be unclean, and shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. If she is cleansed of her discharge, then she shall count 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. On the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and bring them to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest shall offer one as a sin offering, and the other as a burnt offering. So the priest shall make atonement for her before Yahuah for the uncleanness of her discharge. Ye shall separate the children of Yashar'al from their uncleanness, so that they do not die in their uncleanness by defiling my dwelling place that is in their midst. This is the law for him who has a discharge, and for him who has an emission of seed, so that he is unclean by it, and for her who is sick in her separation, and for the man and for the woman who has a discharge, and for him who lies with her who is unclean. Thank you for joining me to gather today's portion. May we continue seeking Yahuah through his word and growing in the knowledge of him one day at a time until Yahusha gathers us. Shalom.